Some of the material presented here reflects information specific to New York. Other states may vary. Slides and notes can be found at precinctstrategy.us. This webinar is an introduction to committee members, what they are and why they are so important. Have you ever stopped to think about how a candidate gets on the ballot? Many people don't know, and they've never even heard of committee members. But before we begin to talk about who or what they are, we need to take a step back and understand some basics about our election process, and it begins with geography. Our country is broken down into 50 states, but it doesn't stop there. Each state is further subdivided into counties. The number of counties can vary from state to state. For instance, New York has 62 counties, whereas Delaware has only 3. The U.S. has over 3,000 counties in total. Here's an example of one county in New York. Suffolk County is home to Congressional Districts 1 and parts of CD 2 and 3. But the breakdown gets even more granular. Counties are further subdivided into precincts or election districts. The nomenclature may change from state to state, but they serve a common purpose: to administer elections. You've probably received a postcard prior to an election identifying your election district and poll location, where you go to vote. Suffolk County, pictured here, has over 1,000 election districts. The United States has over 170,000 in total. An election district is often a relatively small area or neighborhood with a population of roughly 700 to 3,000 people. Suffolk County has a large population, 1.5 million, and is geographically broken down into 10 towns first, and then into EDs or election districts second. Pictured here is one election district, approximately 1 square mile, with a voting population of about 1,000. It's important to note the size and population density of an election district can vary from state to state, county to county, and election district to election district. Now, let's take a look at political parties and representation. The parties we are most familiar with are the Democrat and Republican parties, and this is where representation is manifested. And representation actually begins at the local level, at the election district or precinct level, and there are supposed to be 2 representatives per election district per party, and these representatives are called committee members. So, who are these representatives? Well, they could be you or your neighbor, and they represent your neighborhood. They're considered the voting members of the party, not to be confused with registered voters, and they vote for party leaders at the local level. They can also nominate candidates for local public office. You can think of this as a precursor to primary and general elections. In theory, this is a fairly robust representation at the local level and for the overall population at a national level. With over 170,000 election districts throughout the country and 2 representatives each, that's over 340,000 representatives per party in the country. Well, that's the theory, but wait. In reality, there are so many vacancies. Why is that? Well, the public is not informed when meetings are held. It's not publicized. And The public is not invited unless it's by personal invitation. There's also a lack of civics education. It's not taught in public schools, with rare exceptions. In most cases, the public's not informed of who the committee members even are. Another problem is that it can be selective. In some cases, committee members are temporarily handpicked and appointed. They may have a personal relationship with existing members, and in some cases, they can be government employees at the town or county level. And there's another problem with verification inconsistencies and an approval bias. In some cases, individuals seeking to become committee members may be challenged and/or rejected, sometimes unfairly, sometimes unlawfully. What this means is that with approximately half the number of committee positions vacant, many neighborhoods do not have any representation at all. And decision-making that occurs within the party at the local level is limited to a fewer number of representatives. These are the obvious problems, but there are other concerns. Other factors can further compromise the representation of your election district or precinct. Party bylaws can define the residency requirements for becoming a committee member. For instance, in Suffolk County, New York, you can be a representative for any election district as long as it falls within the boundaries of your assembly district, outlined here in red, which is a much larger area. As this map illustrates, an election district in one location, outlined in yellow, could be represented by someone who lives in another election district 20 miles away. Another concern is proxy votes. In some cases, individuals may be appointed or added to a slate petition without their knowledge, or they may be asked to be a committee member without knowing what the purpose or meaning of the position is as a representative of the neighborhood. And then they may be asked to turn in their proxy vote to committee leaders. This results in a consolidation of power and undermines the fundamental bedrock of our government, representation by, quote, we the people. The photo here was taken at the Suffolk County Republican Nomination Convention in February of 2026. The gentleman with the red tie is the party chairman, and the other three gentlemen are candidates for congressmen for congressional districts 1, 2, and 3, which are in Suffolk County. The lead up to this event was that the party leader and an executive committee appointed a nominating committee who recommends a slate petition, and a floor vote was taken at this convention by the committee members, not the general public. Again, you can think of this as a precursor to an election. So here you have 3 potential congressional seats that went unchallenged and secured the nomination at this event. So if you're not in the photo, you're not part of the decision-making process. So what are the consequences? Well, public apathy. They become disillusioned. People feel disenfranchised, that my vote doesn't matter, and there's low voter turnout. You wind up with a lack of true representation, and ultimately you can lose your country. But the good news is there's a solution. the precinct project, but it requires people to get involved at the local level, to become a committee member and represent your election district, and spread the word. Before concluding, I'd like to emphasize that this presentation is an introduction to committee members. They are not elected politicians, they are not government officials. Rather, they are unpaid volunteer party positions. But they are a vital part to our country's founding principles that demand a representative government of the people, by the people, for the people. Although the details of committee membership can vary from state to state and even at the lower level of county to county, the objective is the same. It's about representation. Just to give some examples of those differences, you have different categories such as governance. And although all states are governed by federal law, every state has its own state laws. They are codified and enforceable. There's administration. In any given state, there might be an individual in charge of elections, either elected or appointed, or it might be a body such as a commission or a board. And that entity may have its own practices, procedures, and guidelines. You also have the political parties. The Democrat and Republican Party can be found in every state, but other official parties can exist. A lesser-known fact is that political parties are actually private corporations, and as such, they are subject to what is referred to as bylaws. And bylaws are the rules and regulations adopted by an organization to self-govern. This is a topic that will be explored in more detail in another presentation. And you have your representation. Your representation takes effect by elected officials, party leaders, and then there are committee members. Committee members are your representatives at the local level. They represent you and your neighbors. So it can get rather complicated, but to help you navigate this, Steve Stern and his team at Precinct Project USA have put together a coalition of leaders for the individual states. They are an invaluable asset that can provide assistance and information that is specific to your state and help you get started. You're not alone. Go to their website at precinctprojectusa.org and link to the state's page for details and contact them. In conclusion, we hope you'll join us and consider becoming a committee member in your county, where you can have a seat at the table and truly make a difference. Become a voting member of your party, elect party leaders, nominate candidates for office, engage and represent your community, and take back your country. For more information, please visit one of these sites.